Well, good morning, everyone. As you can see, we put the wet weather plan in action. We all get wet. Your Excellency, Senators, and all members of Parliament, General Vance, Deputy Minister Foster, Commanding General, United States Army North, Lieutenant General Wiggins, former Army Commander, General Flags Officer, both serving and retired, Honorary Chief Officer West and Senior Chief Officer, distinguished guests, members and family members of this great army. Let me first say that I have about 10 minutes of speech, but due to the weather, I think I might just consider to cut this off to about 5 minutes. But there's a minimum of a message that I would like to pass on, and then certainly express my gratitude to a few people before moving on here. I would like first of all to congratulate the guards, the ceremonial guards, and the band for their outstanding presence today. You certainly add a lot to this, and it is symbolic to have the Army Change of Command on Parliament Hill, and I'd like to thank you sincerely for everything that you do. Ladies and gentlemen, good round of applause for our guards. After 3 years in command of this great institution, I would like to take this opportunity to share a few thoughts about what we have achieved over the past few years. In fact, I need to start by telling everyone that your Army is ready. We are scalable, agile, and responsive to Canada's need, and we are poised to answer the call of the nation. As we all know, the current future environment is very complex. The numerous tragedies and terrorist attacks all around us are clear testimony of this fact. When coupled with the effects of climate change, which is certainly accounting for the marked increase of natural disaster around us, we realize that we are being faced with interesting challenge on the world stage. For these reasons, the Army and the Canadian Forces as a whole need to be ready to react at moment's notice. Equally important, en ce sens, les troupes de l'armée ont su répondre aux besoins de la nation. Nous avons déployé rapidement des Canadiens dans l'Ouest lors des feux de forêt ou lors des inondations. Nous avons encore eu cet exemple cette année, en 2016, dans le secteur de Fort McMurray. Nos Rangers canadiens ont aussi contribué énormément de façon hebdomadaire à faire des opérations de recherche et sauvetage. These great Canadians deserve much credit for their achievement. On the expeditionary front, we have deployed moment's notice troops in Poland, in Ukraine, and with the recent announcement of the government, we will be poised to be able to react to the Chief of Defense Staff direction. All of this possible largely by our military culture, training regimen inspired by lessons learned from the past. We've been guided by a more balanced training approach focused on conventional and combined arms training to maintain a professional army and also a combat-capable army. We can also talk about our reserve. We constitute 50% of the army. This great component provides depth. They are accounting for real tasks for domestic operations, and they are also accounting for about 20% of the overall effort in any expeditionary mission. And this is the true meaning of the One Army team. We will continue to strengthen this critical part of our Army and of the Canadian Forces, and everything bodes well for the future. In terms of our structure, the brigade level will be certainly the main key element of the Army of the future. C'est à ce niveau que l'intégration des éléments militants se fait. C'est aussi à ce niveau que nous pouvons plus facilement rassembler et distribuer les divers éléments. L'évolution de la structure de brigade se fera par l'arrivée de réelles capacités légères qui vont rendre encore plus responsive the Canadian Forces and the Army as a whole. On the personnel side, our most important asset, we have done great strides. We want to make sure that our soldiers will remain fit and they are resilient. And in that context, our Army is leading a pilot project called Mission Ready that is focused on increasing resiliency and performance in 6 domains. There's no doubt that the overall resiliency will increase in the near future. However, recruiting, retention, and inappropriate behavior will remain the most pressing issues. In the context of recruiting and retention, there's no doubt that we are moving the yardstick, and then we will improve and streamline the reserve recruiting more specifically, and those are encouraging advances. For the inappropriate behavior, it's very simple. We will not just tolerate this in our ranks. Alors, il y a eu certainement beaucoup de progrès similaires qui ont été faits du côté de l'équipement avec l'arrivée de plusieurs pièces d'équipement nécessaires pour maintenir l'armée afin qu'elle soit capable de compléter son rôle. Je peux nous parler ici de la version 6 du véhicule blindé léger, la nouvelle version du véhicule de patrouille blindé qui va arriver cet été, et aussi plusieurs systèmes de stimulation qui vont aider grandement à l'entraînement. Sur le plan le plus générique, fort fier prêt. Strong already has been the bumper sticker, which represents the true spirit and the culture of the Canadian soldiers. Looking ahead, what I certainly leave to my successor, General Winnick, is a more scalable, agile, and responsive mantra that should be added that you will need to nurture over the next couple of years. Indeed, the Army is set to face the future, and I take great pride and satisfaction into this. All of this was made possible by many people around us that contributed to these great accomplishments. Let me first thank our both Chief of Defense Staff, General Lawson, for allowing me to command the Army, General Vance, for keeping me in the job during your tenure, and then for your leadership, for your true drive. You are making a big difference. To my unfortunate council colleagues, let me express sincere thanks for your support and professional exchange over the years. To our VCDS, Lieutenant General Thibault, thanks for listening and for most of the time for being the voice of reason. Mr. Foster, our Deputy Minister, and all of my ADM colleagues, thanks for your collaboration and true devotion to the defense team agenda. To the Army Council members, thanks for your leadership and your true commitment to our troops. To both my deputies, Major General Tino, the current, Lieutenant General Winnick, former deputies, thanks for your advice, honesty, and undeniable loyalty. The Honorary Colonel of the Army, Honorary Colonel Goldring, I'd like to thank you for best promoting the interests of the Army and the Canadian Forces. Because of you, corporate Canada knows we exist, and we certainly have a lot more support of any employer. Thanks to you. My personal staff, I'd like to thank you for everything that you've done for me and for the Army, and I know that they could count on you on a daily basis. My fire team partners, Chief One Officer Unbrook, now Major Unbrook, and Chief One Officer Guimont, you have both been outstanding advisor and true confidence. Thanks for this. Thanks to 50,000 strong, proud, and ready soldiers for what they have delivered. Thanks to you and your families for making a difference in the name of peace, security, and prosperity. This leads me to commend the service of all of the Aboriginal people in our ranks. As your champion, I was privileged to learn more and witness the rich diversity and great contribution that you bring to the team. My final and utmost thanks will go, however, to my wife and then to my kids that are represented here today. I love you all very much, and I'd like to thank you for allowing me to do what I can do best. Let me close by congratulating General Winnick. He is the right guy for the job. He will inspire you by his leadership, striking intelligence, and soldier skills. To you and Marianne, I wish you best success in everything that you will do, and it has been an honor to be able to serve with you. It has been an honor to be Commander of the Army over the last 3 years. As I am stepping down from command, I'm using a quote from Insider's Field, the Montreal Canadiens motto, to the next command team. À vous tous, je vous dis, l'eau bras meurtri vous tend le flambeau, à vous toujours de le porter bien haut. Messieurs, dames, merci pour votre présence.
Mesdames et messieurs, le chauffeur du commandant, le caporal-chef Sanchez-Rouleau, va maintenant remettre son fanion au lieutenant-général Heinz. The commander's driver, Master Corporal Sanchez-Rouleau, will now present his pennon to Lieutenant-General Heinz. Ladies and gentlemen, Joanne Couture, wife of the then Army Sergeant Major, will now present flowers to Mrs. Tracy Ames, wife of the outgoing Canadian Army Commander. Joanne Couture, épouse du sergent-major de l'Armée canadienne, présentera des fleurs à Madame Tracy Ames, épouse du commandant de l'Armée canadienne sortant. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant General Ames will now sign over command of the Canadian Army to Lieutenant General Winnick by signing the official scroll. Mesdames et Messieurs, le lieutenant général Ames va maintenant remettre le commandement de l'armée canadienne au lieutenant général Winnick en signant le parchemin officiel. Mesdames et Messieurs, le chef d'état-major de la Défense, le général Vance, va maintenant s'adresser à la parade. The Chief of the Defense Staff, General Vance, will now address the parade.
All right, this is a 45-minute speech that I'm not going to cut down, Marquis. Hey troops, if it ain't raining, it ain't training, so it's all right, better than hot weather, I think. Bonjour tout le monde, bienvenue aujourd'hui, vos excellences, sénateurs, députés parlementaires, sous-ministres, foresters, les leaders de l'équipe de la défense, les anciens chefs d'état-major de la défense, je pense que le général Barry est ici, et le général Natinchuk, de France, officiers généraux et amiraux actifs et à la retraite, anciens commandants de l'armée canadienne, adjudant-chef ouest, officiers et militaires du rang de force armée canadienne, familles et amis, chers invités, bonjour à vous tous. I'd like to offer a special welcome to our allied armies represented here. Lieutenant General Wiggins, thank you for coming. Certainly pleased to see such a great turnout from our attaché community. Nous sommes ici aujourd'hui pour souligner la passation de commandement au sein de l'armée canadienne et pour souligner le travail de deux officiers excellents, les lieutenants généraux Marquis Haynes et Paul Winnick. What a great day as we gather here on Parliament Hill, approaching the 150th anniversary of Confederation, supported by our amazing ceremonial guard and band. We are reminded in many ways that the history of Canada and the Canadian Army are one and the same. From the earliest days of the colony, when settlers banded together for local defense, to the call-out of the militias in the War of 1812, to the establishment of our very first permanent volunteer militia in the 1850s, to the rich regimental systems and operational organization that we know today. Canadian soldiers have stood on guard for their country and its citizens from Vimy Ridge to the end of our 100 days as Canadians marched, fought, and bled and died across the Western Front. It was on the shoulders of the Canadian Army that our great nation, some say, truly came of age as a result of that fight on Vimy Ridge. Throughout Canada's history, wherever they were needed, the men and women of the Canadian Army have answered the call, shielding their fellow citizens from harm, working in support of peace around the world, or assisting Canadians in distress. We just celebrated, recognized, perhaps better said, the memory of those who fought at Beaumont-Hamel in the Battle of the Somme, the 100th anniversary just passing, and we look forward to celebrating a remarkable anniversary of the Battle of Vimy Ridge next year. Commanding the men and women of the Canadian Army then, as it is now, is an honor, a duty, and a privilege. And we all know it's a sacred trust. Over the past 3 years, Lieutenant General Marquis Haynes and the men and women he commands have proven themselves worthy of that trust, and he has surpassed that trust as a commander. Le lieutenant général Haynes est un soldat depuis longtemps. Depuis près de 40 ans, il sert son pays de façon exceptionnelle, comme il l'a fait lors des déploiements opérationnels en Bosnie, en Haïti et en Afghanistan, et 2 opérations domestiques ici au Canada. Quand il a pris le commandement de l'armée canadienne en 2013, elle était en pleine transition. Pendant près d'une décennie, l'armée s'était concentrée sur l'Afghanistan. Cette mission influençait notre planification et dictait nos opérations et la cadence de nos entraînements. But since then, the Army's been preparing for the future. We've seen a shift towards foundational training, preparing for a wide range of future tasks. General Haynes has led a focus on maintaining the physical and mental health of our troops with a strong, proud, and ready campaign. It's a key example of how General Haynes has honored that sacred trust I mentioned earlier. Because Lieutenant General Haynes knows that as leaders we have a duty to look after who we lead. whether NCM or officers, regular or reserve, soldiers, civilians, or their families. He has looked after. Internationally, the Army is at the forefront, managing conflicts around the world, contributing to operations in Iraq, building capacity with allies and partners in Poland, Ukraine, and very soon in Africa. And coming very shortly, with more details on deployments into Latvia, bolstering the NATO deployments in that country. Domestically, the Army is always there when Canada needs it, whether it's fighting forest fires in Saskatchewan and Alberta, or the leadership role of the Army Reserves and Rangers in maintaining Canadian sovereignty. These successes have been possible thanks to the skill and dedication of every member of the Canadian Army, including the tireless efforts and steadfast leadership of General Haynes. Well, I've known Marky a long time, but Marky, I just wanted to recount to you one moment that really I remember well. It was in the early days of the LAV being introduced into the Canadian Army. You commanded 5 Brigade and I had 2 RCR. And I remember we went to a meeting, I think it was in Trenton, where there was considerable consternation in the Army about how we would bring in the LAV and whether or not it was actually a worthy vehicle, or a vehicle worthy of the infantry if we would use it the way it was intended. And I remember you and I were sort of on that one side of the argument saying we need it, we need to train on it, we can master this. But it wasn't until you, with that great weight that you are, where you indicated to all those present that this is how we had to move out. And I remember that, and I tried very hard to follow your lead on that, running 2 RCR. But I also walked away, as do many when they first meet you, with, man, I like that guy. He's just a great guy. And you were, and I really appreciate all your friendship over the years and the hard work you've done commanding the Army, and the leadership that you portrayed, displayed very early on to get the Army where it needed to be with that great piece of equipment. I'm grateful to you, Marquis, for establishing the conditions for the future success of the Canadian Army, and for your work in support of Operation Honor, ensuring every member of our team is treated with the respect they deserve. Now, you're going to continue to work for our soldiers, as well as the rest of the Canadian Armed Forces, as my military representative to the Military Committee in NATO, where important work is being done to ensure stability and respect for fundamental freedom, and where we'll be working hard to get the Canadian Army deployed properly in Latvia. To Tracy, to sons Alex, Anthony, and Benjamin, thank you for all you have done and sacrificed to help support this fine soldier. I'm particularly pleased to see Alex with us today, or should I say Sapper Haynes, of 33 Combat Engineer Regiment, as he carries on the family tradition. Congratulations to you all on a tour de force performance as a commander of the Canadian Army for the family team that goes with it. Maintenant, je vois de grandes choses se présenter pour l'armée canadienne et pour votre nouveau commandant, le lieutenant-général Paul Winnick. Comme votre commandant sortant, il connaît bien les opérations nationales et internationales. Depuis plus de 35 ans à porter l'uniforme, il a servi en Allemagne, en Afghanistan, et a participé à des missions de l'ONU au Cambodge et au Congo, où il a servi en tant que commandant de la force opérationnelle du Canada et de chef des opérations de la mission d'observation des Nations Unies en République démocratique du Congo. Lieutenant-général Winnick prend les commandes pendant une période très occupée pour l'armée canadienne. Le contexte mondial en matière de sécurité a évolué et il continuera de le faire. Nous sommes témoins d'instabilité extrême qui fragilise le Moyen-Orient. Et dans d'autres régions comme en Europe de l'Est, on retourne à une époque de tension que notre génération avait espéré faire disparaître à jamais. Although we are working hard to continue to do so to anticipate future threats and challenges, we cannot predict exactly where we will be directed to operate or what we will be asked to do. So Paul, you'll keep this Army flexible. You'll keep it agile, ready to be employed across the full spectrum of operations, either with NATO, the UN, an ally, or as part of a coalition. You need to be ready to be employed across the full spectrum. The Government of Canada has announced one such commitment recently. The Canadian Army will deploy forces to Latvia, leading a multinational battle group as part of NATO enhanced forward presence in Eastern Europe. But no matter what you do, throughout any mission assigned, the Army will be working on the key concepts of conflict prevention, conflict management, conflict termination, and harm reduction. Stop conflicts if we can. Keep them from growing bigger. Try to end them. And avoid harm to people and infrastructure in everything we do. These are challenging tasks that lie before you. And that is why I am so pleased to know that you will be leading the Army as we confront them. Like so many of the men and women you command, you're an outstanding soldier and an excellent leader, and I've seen this for myself. We were Army cadets together, graduated from the same jump course back in 1981. We were roommates at Royal Roads, and we even did push-ups with Ron Lloyd back in the day. I won't make you do those today. Although we were thinking, we did chin-ups for the jump course. So I thought maybe we'd redo that, but we're not going to do that. Someday maybe. Paul, the sacred trust is now yours to keep as you lead the men and women of the Canadian Army into the future. I'm so pleased to see Marianne, Andrew, and Stephen here with you to share the moment. It's especially good to see your mom, Joan, right there. She once fed me peanut butter sandwiches on a break from the jump course a long time ago. I'll never forget that. Our families are the greatest support system any soldier can ask for, and Carrie and I welcome you into the ranks of the most senior leadership of the armed forces. We draw from you the love and the strength that we must, and we try to return it in time. Every soldier would do well to remember that the sacred trust of leadership